just a quick little review. The sapphire blue with the black wheels. Oh, the spoiler action. I mean, this car is it's beautiful.
Oh god. You can feel the torque back here. Bumpy as shit. Oh well.
I think it costs too much for what you get. I don't want people cross shop. So, okay, so let's start this video off. Welcome. This is Travis.
What's going on, guys?
AKA M3. So go follow him if you don't already. You probably already do if you follow my channel. But this is a type of video that I've been thinking about doing for kind of a while, especially recently. Like, I've been driving a lot of different cars. You've been driving a few different cars as well. And especially like last winter time, this is something that I thought of is doing sort of like podcast style, shorter but very like specific videos on specific things. So I think that we both drove a Macan GTS recently, which there is a video.
I don't have mine out yet, but hopefully tomorrow, maybe.
Link in the description for that. But we both drove it. It was kind of a friend's car that we sort of met up with through Matt when Matt Warman was here. So we all met up, and his name is Sammy. So he let us drive his car, and I want to say it's a great car.
Yeah, it's definitely a great
He's
car.
a lucky dude for like even driving that regularly.
Especially daily.
Yeah, I mean it's a good daily. But I want to get into. I was surprised by a few things. I think you were too, and we're underwhelmed by a few things as well for the car. But anyway, so it was. I'll put a picture on the screen, but it was sapphire blue, black wheels, Macan, Porsche Macan GTS. What is it, like a 16 or 15?
I think he said it was 16. Yeah.
So it was. It's a new car.
Basically new. I know you mentioned that it's the perfect spec that you would have done if you were to option out GTS.
Yeah. So like price and sort of like the goal for a car like that, I feel like spending a lot of money on the turbo doesn't really seem worth it. So it's weird that I didn't even know he had that car and he was coming to the event, but I spec'd one randomly like a week or two before that. Sapphire blue, black wheels, GTS, a bunch of similar like kind of interior specs and stuff like that. So it's really weird that like I kind of pretended like if I was in the market for a car like that, which would be really cool as like a second car. Definitely as a second car. I thought, okay, so that's sort of.
Well, I thought it was like if I had to get rid of my M3 and have one car, the Macan GTS was supposed to be that car.
Right. That was my impression as well, because everywhere, all the reviews that you see, all the blogs that you read, everyone's like blown away. It seems like they're like this is a crossover SUV type car that like it does everything right. It's super sporty. It's super engaging. It's super fast. Like. All that stuff, and like given we both drive M3s. You drive one that's bonkers. I drive one that's engaging or whatever you want to call it, basic, whatever you want to call it. Very high horsepower, highly involved, highly dramatic drivers' cars, like iconic cars that are sporty. Like you can't get any better. But anyways. So we're very biased, but at the same time, I was just maxing the expectation with what I was going to expect myself, and I was a little underwhelmed.
I'd agree. And I want to back it up just a little bit before we talk about, for me, why I felt most underwhelmed. So I looked up the base price on a GTS. I think it's about $67,000. I think he mentioned that his option was around $89,000. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So almost $90,000, guys. So you got to think about. If you had $90,000, what cars you would buy?
And that wasn't even fully spec'd. He didn't have suspension.
You're right, he didn't have the suspension. Yeah.
The sports suspension. He didn't have the steering. I assume like a few driver's aids. I don't think he had everything in there. I mean, maybe he did.
But he had the key things like the Sport Chrono and the Sport. I don't really know how Sport Plus is set up in there, but I know he has a different suspension, which might just be because of the GTS. So I don't know if he did anything above that. But, I mean, the car was optioned out.
It was pretty
much how I would do it, I guess, if I was looking at it. And then if I was going to consider something maybe a little bit different, that would be more of that darker gray with black. But overall, it would be the same price. So $89,000. That's
over 80. So even if you took out just some stuff that you don't want, you're paying let's say 85 grand is way too much.
And
it's
if
way
you,
too much.
if you don't know what the ratings are on the GTS, I think it's about 360 horsepower.
Yeah. Yep.
And then probably about the same for torque. And so when you think about that to a car that's probably weighing close to 4,000 pounds.
And even that, like, it didn't feel, I expected to feel like, it didn't feel fast.
I expected it to be a Porsche. You know, I expected 911 Carrera type feel. I expected it to just be very dynamic and very like world breaking in terms of a truck. I felt like the brand carries more weight for me what the Macan is than what the car actually does in terms of just being.
Right. But the argument that everyone's going to say in the comments is, well, it's a crossover. It's not a 911.
Which is understandable.
Right.
But
which is what I was trying to keep into account too. But I also wanted to take into account the fact of what everyone says online.
Mm-hmm. Which is that it's one of
the
best driving SUVs you could possibly take to the track.
But I can't imagine, like, David has the F-Pace.
Yep.
50 grand for his spec. Even if you fully optioned the highest one, you're saving 20 grand easy. And I can't imagine it drives that much differently. Like, does the Porsche drive $25,000 better than the highest F-Pace? I don't know if people cross-shop those, but that's like my first thought.
I feel like from a me and you perspective, no, I can't speak for those 10/10 people who want to talk about driving it to the absolute limit.
I mean, how many
he's really doing?
They're just talking about it. They're talking about the numbers.
Yeah.
The 0 to 60
definitely was more responsive.
The G-test, the reliable G's, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The transmission was the best part.
Transmission sold the car. For sure.
Yeah.
Between that and
the interior,
if you're really into that custom stuff, like you can get real custom on how you want a Porsche to look. And I feel like for some people, it's the way they can option a Macan.
Yeah.
Is why Porsche sells.
Right. Because the Porsche people they're crazy. They want everything. Their engineer mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they're very like you're an engineer. Like everything has a place. Everything has a purpose. You know exactly what you want, and you know how you want it, and that's what's great.
Yeah,
that's probably what's horrible with Porsche because you have the option to buy it.
You can't
spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on that, but for 80 to 90 grand for the GTS. And that's not even the turbo.
Yeah.
You know, that's I want to drive the turbo. I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to drive a turbo Macan, but like that begs the question of like, should you just get the turbo?
But in terms of the lag that we felt, the lightness in the steering, the slight understeer that you would feel in the corners, I don't think the turbo is gonna fix. It's gonna be worse than a driving experience.
It would need a tune, and then
you know,
you're buying a freaking $80,000 car and you're trying to change the way it's working for you because it's not good enough, and that to me is like, well, then maybe it's not the best car for you. You know, so that sort of proves to me it's a great car.
No, it's fantastic.
I really liked it, but the fact that
$67,000.
But it's Porsche,
not 90.
You know, maybe certified pre-owned.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, even if it's Porsche, people expect Porsche to drive differently.
True.
And I can't sit here and say that if you were to give me the upcoming X3 on BMW, the upcoming GLC with the V8, and that Porsche, and I'm going to drive all three of those and be like, the Macan GTS is bar none.
That makes me want to drive the other ones.
Definitely have to drive the
other ones. If that was like underwhelming, are the other ones like junk? Like,
or the way they explain it, or the way they explain it in the reviews is that that would be the case.
Because the driving dynamics of that car were not like Porsche. Like for being in Sport Plus or whatever it was, one of the highest sport modes. Like the steering, you definitely need the steering package or whatever the dynamic steering.
Yeah, he didn't have that, right?
No, he did not have it. That's why in my video, I can literally use my finger when I'm sitting. Like I can't even do that in my Jeep, right?
Even then, it had that dead space. I don't know if people feel like when it had a lot of dead space in terms of the steering travel, and that's annoying.
Yeah, which is surprising for a Porsche.
Yeah, but I think a part of that is because it's a turbo as well, and that's just the game you play when you're dealing with a turbo vehicle. You know, there's nothing about that motor that has any Porsche heritage. It's not a flat. It's not a flat six. It's It's turbo, so it's just kind of like.
So that makes me think that they developed it for different reasons.
They developed it to sell.
So they developed it for the masses. So they developed it for people who aren't as focused on the raw, like we were talking about the Carrera T earlier.
Yep.
Like that versus the Macan GTS. I mean, there's no way. Obviously, you wouldn't cross shop those. But the people who buy the Carrera Ts are the the driver people. Where the people who buy the Macans are just spouses that just needed grocery getter or
has the Porsche emblem on it.
Has a Porsche. It's a great car, but like they're not focused on the steering feeling perfect. If there's turbo lag, normal people probably don't even notice that.
Yeah, probably. And I didn't notice it at first either because I was in the right part of the power band.
Right.
But then when I started playing around with the different gears, it was very apparent to understand.
Downshift.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you're underneath 3.5, it lagged.
Yeah. No, it was noticeable for sure. It was definitely significant in my mind.
Yeah, and we also come from just very instantaneous driving V8, so it's very hard to. I bet if we had somebody who was in an F80 M3 and they drove the GTS, they might have a slightly different feel.
Yeah, because when I drive a turbo car now, because I have two V8s now, so if I drive a turbo car, it's weird. It's a very weird experience at first because all the power is different.
Yeah,
it sounds different. Everything's different. I mean, it's a different car, but yeah. So I tried to be as unbiased as possible
during that.
Yeah. But I also wanted to sort of align it to what people were saying. Like it's the same thing with the GT3. It's the same thing like with the Carrera 4S. Like it's the same thing with all the Porsches I've driven. I think that's it. Where the GT3 was amazing, but I've never driven a weapon like that before, so that's why I was blown away.
So you have nothing to really
compare. So it's just my own thought. And then the 911 Carrera 4S, I mean, people think they're great cars, but like I think it's way better. Like it's definitely worth $120 or $130 or whatever.
That's surprising because
like,
for me, I would never think about a Carrera.
I would definitely.
I'm straight to GT.
Yeah, that's how I was. But then once you drive it, you're like, my mind is totally blown. And I definitely think that if you need to progress, I can easily see why someone would buy a Carrera. I don't know about like the lower end Carreras. I mean they're going to drive differently with the different sport packages. And the Carrera T, I mean, damn. We should do a separate video on that.
I know. So we're going to bring it back to the Macan real quick. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier today. If it had a naturally aspirated 3.8 liter flat six, do you think the GTS experience would have been different?
I mean, it has to be.
And I know it's so hypothetical, so it's really hard to really dive into
Would it make me just easily justify the price? I mean, I don't know, man. That's a good question.
It's sad because
What do you think?
It would have to hit all the same boxes, I guess. I feel when I drive the M3.
Yeah.
And I
but
think
you don't want
sound
to. It's not the same.
Sell
the sound. I thought the car sounded pretty good.
Yeah, but it did sound good when you're in the back seat.
Yeah, that's true. You're closer to the exhaust.
The exhaust sound, but when you're in the passenger or the driver's seat, the only time it sounded good because it was surprising that it was going to happen because it didn't always burble. It was inconsistent with burbles. But when you did downshift and you got that burble, you smiled, you got a little giggity, and it was like, this is...
You can tell that, like, the sound insulation, the engine, the induction noise, like, all that's very minimal in that car. Which makes sense. It's not meant to be a track car. It's not meant to be some visceral experience. So, trying to keep that in mind. But at the same time, everyone says about how... So performance, and it sounds really good, it looks really good, it's a best all-around car, and like I guess it's a good all-around car if you have another car.
If you have an actual...
I could easily drive that around with my M3.
If money was no object...
But spending that...
I would probably reconsider dailying a Macan GTS. But at $90,000, that opens doors to the other cars, such as the GLC AMG that's coming out. I'm not saying that's the best looking car either, but it has a V8. Yeah. So just the drama that a V8 is going to give is going to, I will no longer care about.
Engine and induction noise and the speed that car will get to.
Yep.
I mean,
BMW X3M.
I don't know.
I think that car is going to be less than 90, and it will probably punch the same weight class as the Macan GTS. And therefore, it's like, what are you paying for? Are you paying more money for the brand, or are you paying for more performance? Because I don't think that's going to be the case.
I just hate the X3. So
I'm going to throw the odd stepchild out that no one really talks about, but even the Stepwheel that's coming out, the quadrifoglio for that thing, it's 20 horsepower. That'll still be around that same price. So I think ultimately, GTS is just underpowered. First and foremost, it's just severely underpowered.
I can't imagine what the base Macan feels like.
I would, if I probably drove a base as my first experience into the Macan, I would never Google Macan again.
Right, but I drove a GTS and I'm like,
it's supposed to be the holy grail.
I'm like, it's not the turbo, but like, man, it's not exactly cheap.
You get a turbo money, and for me, even if the turbo was amazing, at that point, the price range I'm in, I might as well get like an X5M, or it's just like you're in a whole nother weight class at that point, and I don't care how great this car is, premium. It's a huge premium for that.
So essentially, it costs. I'm sorry, because it's Porsche. It's kind of ironic because Porsches are expensive.
Yeah.
Like the Carreras, and I mean, it's over $100,000 you're spending on a 911.
Mm-hmm.
But that car, for what you get, I think is not. It's the classic, the expensive SUV. It's just like if you buy an Escalator, you buy anything like that, the high end, brand new. You're gonna lose your ass on it. You're probably gonna like it, and you're just gonna sell it in 2-3 years.
Yep.
I mean, the people that buy those other cars for the same reason. So maybe it's just really not the car for us. I thought it would be. I really thought
I was set on it. I was
I
would daily
Sammy, if you're watching this, amazing car, amazing spec, but we just wanted to use this as an example to express.
Check it off the box.
Exactly. I would happily drive it again because it was fun in a way.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could, drive it all day and not really think.
I feel like I would never turn down getting offered the keys to drive a Macan GTS, but I would never think about it again that I need to get this in my garage.
Right. Yeah. It would be more of just a little accessory as opposed to necessity.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was like, I like this video because, man, dude, I was thinking about this ever since we drove it. I was like, and we'd go back and forth, and I would tell everyone I know. I'd try to have a discussion and see like what they think, because no one talks about it like this.
No,
they bow down to the freaking Macan, and I feel like it's same thing, honestly, with the F80s.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, so good, blah blah blah. I mean, we're biased.
Sure.
Maybe
we're definitely biased.
A bunch of douchebag E92 owners think they're so sweet and their cars sound better than everything else. But honestly, same example. Everyone bows down, but they just ignore the fact that the F80 sounds honestly not good.
It's garbage. The worst sounding modern day car. Perfect example of a guy who said that the Fiat one day that rolled by sounded better than his M4. Without a doubt. And I even knew it sounded better. I said,
the Fiat has a lot of little crackles and burbles. The Abarth?
Yeah, the Abarth sounds way better than that.
That thing has some crazy things going on.
It's a hard place to be right now for turbo performing cars, but I want to highlight, I think, the best part, even more so than the transmission on the GTS, and that was the launch control.
That was cool.
Launch control exceeded every expectation I possibly had.
It put down the power very well.
It put down all the power.
Yeah.
Because I watched it on the highway, I was like, this thing doesn't move. He's like, oh, really, launch control. I didn't expect to get thrown into my seat.
Well, that's the power of the PDK and the turbos.
For sure. And it maximized that. The car is capable of utilizing all that small 360 horsepower.
That is true. That's a big plus. So, more horsepower, I mean,
imagine
it makes it hard
to probably still hook
at that point. Yeah.
I bet if you had 500, I bet it will hook still just as good as it hooked with 360.
All-wheel drive helps.
So,
yeah.
But the car, man, would be only... I'm curious to know what the stats are on a PDK GTS, 0 to 60, 0 to 100, versus the stats on a manual M3.
Wait.
Because, and I'm saying yours, because you're at 411 horse, just from a stock perspective. You're at 414, 296 torque, right? Your car obviously weighs less, but it has a way better transmission, and it has turbo, so the torque will be a little bit better. The highway, no contest, but from a roll, I'm curious to know if the GTS
I could shift perfectly,
really much slower, or
he would be off the line faster, but then
lights out after.
But then to 100, like closer to 100 or something, I'd probably catch up.
So I have no idea. I don't know what the quarter mile times or anything like that is, but
you could be way off.
I'm just curious if it's actually punching pretty well in speed, and we just it just feels.
It was weird because when
look it up
before we did anything, before I drove it, before I even thought about driving it, we were rolling, all of us, on the highway, and I was easily like, you know, running with the GTS. I just, for some reason, I guess I thought it was just this sort of god of a car, you know, just because you hear so many good things, you sort of put it on a pedestal. And it's a great car, it's just, it shouldn't be on a pedestal. I guess that's sort of...
So what I'm looking up is the 0 to 60 is anywhere from 4.4, and I see some people saying 4.8.
Yeah, so that's mine.
So that's about where you are. But
with me shifting, it's probably 4.8.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like 4.4. The car doesn't feel like it gets, unless they're judging that based off launch control. Well, then I could believe 4.4. I don't know how they're doing that test, but
I don't think it's violent.
From a roll, if you're rolling at 5, like when we crossed the stop sign and then I gunned it, it was lag, kicked on power, then it just shifted the base.
Yeah, that's true. And that's just like efficiency and turbos. Like, I don't know what that is, but the launch control puts in a very specific
realm of car
mode. It's doing one thing and it knows what it needs to do. But when you're rolling or you're driving normally, I think it naturally just sort of, I mean, if you downshift, it'll go down.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the PDKs, is a clutch going down the gear.
That thing snaps through gears.
Yeah.
Like telepathic.
That's the best part, is that's what makes it more fun. But it's really usable. So that is a good part. When we go around the turns, you can downshift and kind of, you know, gun it and do it, use the power.
Yeah, but even it just didn't. On paper, because that's what we got to talk about. The car is supposed to be as quick as your car. Stop.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel any of that, other than launch control. Yeah. So I'm sure most of these numbers are from launch control.
Knowing launch control, now I believe it.
Yeah. Because that thing would probably get off the line faster than even my M3. I mean, that thing just
the
zero
power
wheel spin
gets put down. Yeah.
But so we're not trying to say the car is like totally slow in all aspects.
A lot to pay for what you get.
Yeah.
Even assuming that you don't get this crazy